obviously for us here at the center, a lot of those folks are women. I think when people are already on a tight budget, and then we have things like increased food costs, delivery costs for food, reduced programming in community that people depend on, reduced access to transit to get around. These things hit people really hard and often are unrecoverable for many of our community members. When we look at the response to COVID-19 through a gender lens, it's important for us to remember things like a stay-home advisory really are only a safer option if home is a safe place. And for many of the people that we work with, home is not a safe place. And so being isolated in your home often means being isolated with someone who's causing violence to you. Minister Monsef, who is the Minister of Women and Gender Equality, noted a dramatic increase in gender-based violence across the country, including in some places as high as a 400% increase during the pandemic. So this is a whole new challenge that we're facing right now with such an extreme increase to the violence that women and just LGBT folks are experiencing. I think the other challenge that goes hand in hand with that is that many of the spaces like ours are reducing their hours, limiting access to drop-in spaces and appointments for support. We've had to move mostly to online phone support, which is often challenging for women who can't leave their homes to reach out or have phones that are monitored, don't have phones at all. It makes reaching out to those women at risk very difficult. We've also noted that despite a moratorium on eviction, that many folks are still being evicted, and that's what we are facing, and we anticipate that to get even worse once that eviction moratorium has been lifted. So we're bracing ourselves for an influx of folks forced into homelessness as a result of the pandemic. Another impacts that we're looking at are things like the impact of having schools and daycares closed when women are primary caregivers. It tends that women are unable to work if they don't have a place for their children to go. A lot of folks who are still working, who have been deemed essential service workers, who are precariously employed in many cases, are women, grocery store clerks, care providers, healthcare workers, nurses. Many of the folks who work in the nonprofit sector are predominantly women, and so we increase their challenges when we take away supports that they need to survive, like daycare. I think all of these things are worth noting, but the most important thing that we need to advocate for now is that we take a gendered response to the way out of the pandemic as we build a plan for recovery. That recovery includes women, it includes Indigenous voices, it includes the voices of folks who are living in poverty and experiencing homelessness. It includes other voices, the voices of folks living with disabilities, and that plan is really and truly built to make sure that we all recover, because we are all impacted, most certainly, but we're not all impacted equally, and so it is important that recovery to the voices has been most deeply impacted by COVID-19. I think I'll leave there now. Molly?
Thanks, Laurie. Yeah, again, the work both at the center in terms of supporting basic needs we have right now, and then also looking on to what we need in terms of change. So thanks for that. I'm going to pass off next to Rena. We can hear you. So I met Rena last year when she shared her story with me and with Make Poverty History for a video series that we did for the provincial election. And I was really blown away, Rena, by your story, your ability to clearly articulate your message and what we need from governments and from leaders right now, and your strength too. So I'm thankful that you agreed again to share your story with us today. So Rena, I'll welcome you now to share.
Thank you, Michael. Can you hear me?
Yes, thanks.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you well.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, my name is Rena. I volunteer for Winnipeg Harvest. I gotta say that I'm proud to be a part of this. Um, the the streaming keeps cutting in and out, so I'm not sure um, how to how to respond to that, but I'm just gonna go with it anyways. It's funny. I got my check yesterday, that $200 in the mail because I'm disabled, and I got this letter with it from Brian Pallister and my check, right? And this is attached to a receipt. Anyways, I was thinking with this letter here and the check, like it costs money to for them to make these checks. Why didn't they put it in direct deposit? And with this letter, why didn't they use the money they used for this letter to put into people for harvest, or I mean people for on disability welfare? Why spend money like this
Yeah.
stupidly when it can go to a better way, like the people in need? I always feel that people on welfare are always the forgotten ones. We're always the last to get something, and when we do get something, it's usually just to shut us up. It's like, oh, the people on welfare, they're fine. You know, their rent is paid. What more do they want? With COVID happening, as personal to me, um, my phone call, my cell is really important to me because I have a lot of physical problems and mental problems, and I need my phone to talk to my doctor because I can't see my doctor because of COVID. So I have to talk to her on the phone, and it's really, I get a lot of anxiety because she'll tell me, "Oh, I'll call you next week sometime." Well, for me with anxiety, next week sometime, it's too vague. um that really freaks me out. So carry my phone constantly with me, hoping um that won't miss a call or anything. And then staying home is very depressing because I used to go and volunteer at one of the covers and go out in my community, talk with my church and everything. And support systems are down because of this COVID. So I'm suffering from depression, and you know, I'm frustrated with the stores because when you go shopping, you know, the the stuff that's on sale or the stuff you're used to buying is never in stock. So you're always forced to buy the high priced items and the high priced stuff. And it's hard because we only get like three something a day to live off of. And when I that cheap loaf of bread or that, and I have to buy the more expensive loaf, it affects my budget. And then with harvest shutting down the way it did with the food banks, it's hard for me because I go once a month and instead of twice a month. And they say that we get more, but I don't think so. What I've been getting is the same amount or even less than I did before every 2 weeks. So, so like when I go to my food bank, whatever they give me, I'll shop to match it. Like if I get a lot of macaroni, I'll buy some hamburger and some vegetables and. So it's hard when you don't get as much from the food bank and they're shopping at the stores, and I'm scared to get this COVID, so I'm buying gloves and masks and cleaning supplies for people who come over, like to visit. It's I don't really have anyone visiting me, but the just just being hygiene is 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 hard on me. So yeah, like I don't know what else to say. I'm struggling with COVID, and this $200 isn't enough. It's not. It's like, here, have something and be quiet. So I kind of feel like the government is um, disrespecting people on on welfare. Like, there's a reason why we're on welfare. We can't work, or we got issues, and no one's working right now. So I wish the government would come and live with us for a week and see how we feel, how it is to be on welfare and to shop when you're going through this COVID and with your anxieties and whatnot. Are you still there?
Thank you so much, Rena. That's just so wonderful for you to share your experience. And yeah, it's just, we really appreciate your time today. And yeah, you're just such a great advocate. So thank you so much. Um, we're going to go back to Debbie, I believe.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I'd previously introduced Debbie, but I'll hand it back over to you, Debbie. We think we've fixed her sound. Thanks.
Yes, I think so. Okay, can everybody hear me? Yeah? Okay. Okay, so my name is Debbie, and I work at Low Income Intermediary Project as a volunteer advocate for people on EIA. EIA is also known as welfare for those who don't know. I am also on the steering committee of Make Poverty History Manitoba, and I'm involved with poverty awareness, community action, teaching third-year medical students what it's like to live in poverty, so they have more compassion for people in poverty as well. I'm 55 years old, and I've lived on and off EIA in Alberta, BC, and Manitoba. Here in Manitoba, I have been on EIA disability for the last 13 years. I have learned to accept it as just the way it has to be now. It's not that I don't want to work, it's that I am unable to hold down a job that would bring me out of poverty. I have mental health issues and medical problems that would make it hard for me to find a job. I am in chronic pain most of the time, and I need to have a job where I have the freedom to get up and move around and find a quiet place if I am if I am having anxiety. I would need a boss that would be able to let me leave work if I wasn't doing well. The job pool for those jobs are very small and far and few between. I love the work that I do. That I love. I love the work I do now, and due to some traumatic things that have happened in my past, through medication and counseling, I was able to turn my past into something good where I have the compassion and understanding for helping people I help today. My main work is giving people a chance to fighting chance to get on EIA disability by helping them with their paperwork. I'm proud of the job I do, and because most of the people I help get on disability. Since the pandemic hit, I have been very frustrated with the government because there are so many misconceptions out there. One that I came to that came to my attention is where Brian Pallister said people on EIA just want to sit and collect money from the government. I recently sent an email to Brian Pallister telling him just what I thought of his comments. I told him that although there may be some people doing just that, it is not at all the majority of the people, and definitely not single people and single people on disability. They get so little money that they're barely able to survive. For those people, staying alive is a full time job, making their way to different areas of, of the city to eat at soup kitchens just to survive. When they do buy food, they can't buy healthy food because all they can afford is canned food, processed food, junk food. I asked Pastor how he can live with himself when he gets to go home to a good home-cooked meal, healthy meal, and people are dying eating food. Here's the funny part. His office contacted my worker to get a hold of me, make sure I was collecting everything I am able to collect on EIA. I think they missed the part where I said I was an EIA advocate. I assured my worker, who happened to be a new EIA worker for me, and assured her that I was getting as much yet. I then sent Pallister. Then I sent Pallister another email. I then sent another email to Pallister about what I thought about one-time $200 checks that we just received. After telling him I was grateful for the check, I told him that he thought that was supposed to help people in poverty to get through COVID-19. He was sadly mistaken. I asked him if he even knew how much food and other expenses were before the pandemic. Was he aware that the cost of pretty much everything except junk food had gone up? People in EIA are struggling very hard before the pandemic. Now it's pretty much impossible to do what we need to do so that we don't spread the virus. I asked him if he knows the person that walked past him on the street. Was that person in poverty or not? Were they wearing a mask or not? Did they really want to take the chance? Did he really want to take the chance that that person was someone in poverty that had the virus but had no money to buy a mask, or needed to go and get food because they had no money to get it any other way? Did that person cough? The government wants us to stay safe, but they don't really mean it. They just mean keep your distance from us rich people. It's time that we all stand. It's time that we all start writing to our premier and telling him what it's like to live our lives, not in an aggressive way, but in a wake up and smell the coffee kind of way. We need to tell him that when he says, and this is in the letter that he gave us with our checks, we protect our vulnerable and face our challenges together, strong and united. It means more than just a $200 check. That's all I have to say. Hello.
Hello. Hi, thank you so much, Debbie. I'm now not muted. I was just saying, I'm so glad you're an EIA advocate. You're just such a great advocate and communicator, and I really like your call to write to the Premier, write to our elected officials in the Manitoba legislature. And that's a really good segue for our calls to action, and we'll post these online. But we have a petition to the Premier and the provincial government to increase employment and income assistance, $300 per person per month for the length of the pandemic. BC has done this, and it's needed because we know the cost of living has gone up. EIA is not high enough at all to begin with. And as you were noting, people are really suffering trying to make ends meet. Yes, so sign our petition, contact your MLA. If you're a senior, we are collecting stories of seniors who were not happy with the $200 benefit that went to all seniors regardless of income. Of course, we understand low-income seniors do need the assistance, but there's some seniors we've heard from directly who said we'd rather this money go to people in direct need. So we have some information about that. And then also, of course, our mailing list. So yeah, thank you so much, Debbie, and I'm going to hand it off. We have Josh Brandon next. I'll introduce Josh, and then our final presenter here is Dana Connelly. So Josh Brandon is a community animator at the Social Planning Council of Winnipeg. He is a member of the steering committee of Make Poverty History and our former chair at Make Poverty History. Josh is a passionate community advocate and has done research and writing about EIA and social welfare policy. He and I co-authored the chapter in the alternative provincial budget about the livable basic needs benefit, which he'll be talking about. And so I'm pleased to welcome Josh to talk about some of the dynamics of COVID-19, poverty, and provincial government policy.
Thank you so much, Molly, and it's really a privilege to be part of this conversation today, and thank everybody for joining online. These are difficult times that we're working in right now, and I feel like a lot of people, the past few months with the pandemic, and then on top of that, just this exploding crisis of here in Winnipeg and across North America has long been racialized, but I think in our current environment right now, we have some deep-seated fissures in our society that we need to heal. And one thing that I see as positive about coming out of this COVID-19 pandemic is we see that there is a reevaluation for people about what is important. And I think people are coming together in ways that they haven't before. Community is much stronger, and I think we have a real opportunity with that. We also have seen, like never in recent history, the ability that government has and society has when it needs to turn on a dime, to make the investments needed when there was all kinds of when we shut down whole branches of the economy, and when we have moved of billions of dollars nationally into assistance programs, we see that money isn't really an object for getting things we need. As a society, we can create money. We can create money through the fiscal measures that government has at its disposal. And deficit isn't really the issue that we've had it hammered into us for the past 40 years under decades of austerity, when it becomes absolutely necessary. And so it comes to even more into the fore about how important it is to address long-standing poverty, and secondly, how feasible it is. We look at the total gap between what it would take to lift everybody in Manitoba above the poverty line. We know it would take less than 1% of our total GDP. How important it is, and so that's fundamentally where our campaign is coming from. As others have mentioned, we have a campaign right now to increase EIA by $300 per month, and this is a temporary measure. Why $300 per month? Ultimately, people living on EIA need longer-term support. They need actually a deeper program of support that extends both on EIA and for low-wage workers. So as Molly mentioned, we called a livable basic needs benefit, and that would be a benefit that would be available both for people on EIA as well as for low-wage workers and other people living in poverty, to lift everybody up to the poverty line. That would help eliminate the welfare wall. It would help create opportunities for people to have the resources they need without relying on an often bureaucratic welfare system. I think, Debbie could speak to this more eloquently than me, and did address some of these issues about how many hurdles people every day when they're on EIA have to jump over just to get this basic need or that basic need. Fundamentally, people on EIA are not receiving their basic needs as it is. And so in some ways, this workshop today is a little bit of a misnomer beyond necessities. I think we ultimately need just to even get people to the necessities that they need. But in any case, so that's where the call to action comes from historically. We launched this campaign for a $300 increase back in March, shortly after the state of emergency was declared. And we know we're thinking about where to land on, what are we asking the government to do? Because, we've had this long-standing call for a livable basic needs benefit that would lift everybody out of poverty. And so as a temporary measure, we're asking the government to implement a $300 per person increase. And that's equivalent to what they've been offering in British Columbia during the pandemic. So it shows again that other provinces are stepping forward. Manitoba can do more as well. And in fact, Manitoba's done less than most other jurisdictions in terms of providing income support for people during this crisis. I think I don't really have too much to add to what Raina and Debbie and Lori were saying about the need for why we need this increase right now during our COVID crisis. People aren't getting their EIA. EIA isn't providing enough for their basic needs. People can't afford telephones, so accessing the health links, accessing emergency services, and staying in communication with loved ones is so important during this crisis. People aren't able to afford the hygiene projects that they know are necessary. And this is something at Make Poverty History we've documented time and again, that people aren't able to afford just those basic needs that people have to stay safe and healthy at regular times. At a crisis like we have right now, it's even more imperative that people have those resources. And then the access to services, food banks not having as regular hours, community centers, drop-in centers, libraries being closed. People's housing needs are the need to have good quality, safe, affordable housing is accentuated during this crisis. And finally, we know that in other jurisdictions, COVID-19 has hit people in poverty the hardest. We know there's a racialized dimension to COVID-19. There's been studies across the United States. People of color, Black people, Indigenous people suffer higher rates of death and higher rates of hospitalization as a result of COVID-19. We don't have the data here yet as to how that's affecting people here, but we do know that poverty is a risk factor. And so we need to do everything possible to lift people out of poverty. The government response to COVID-19 has been inadequate so far. We have seen one of the first things they did was provide $200 to seniors. And Molly talked about how we have a campaign. If you're not in poverty and you're a senior and you don't feel that you need that money, there's lots of places that you can provide benefits benefits for. In fact, the government response has been to actually cut services and threaten cuts to programs that are actually helping on the front line. And so we need to continue to push government to provide resources. We've had some impact, I think, with our campaign. There's no doubt in my mind that there would not have been a $200 one-time check to people living on disabilities, living on EIA with disabilities, if it weren't for the advocacy work done by Make Poverty History and our partners. We know that that is totally inadequate. There needs to be much more done. We need a long-term program of support to lift everybody out of poverty. And so I just want to reiterate the call that Molly made, that we need to have people sign the petitions, that the link will be provided to you. We need people to contact their members of the legislature, your local MLAs, and to let them know how important those income supports are, both during this crisis and long-term afterwards. And so I think we have a blueprint of where we can go. We've shown that we can do it. We have the resources available, and we just need government to act. So thanks so much, Molly.
Thank you so much, Josh, for that presentation about Make Poverty History Manitoba's call for a $300 emergency support per month for every individual on employment and income assistance. That was great. It's now my honor and pleasure to introduce Dana Connelly, who is a community member who brings joy, support, and love to our communities, including through her work as the Associate Executive Director at Gani Ganijik. And Dana has been focused on some important work supporting and loving community through this pandemic. And so we're so delighted that she can join us today. Over to you, Dana.
Hi, thank you for the introduction. What
Well, we're just going to fix Dana's video, so I will talk a little bit more while we our tech person gets Dana back up. And I just wanted to mention, I think, Josh, you're right that the $200 benefit for people with disabilities would not have happened without a broad coalition of people asking for emergency support. And I think what shifted here was, previous to that, there had been no direct income supports to anyone. And the quote that the Premier made in the COVID briefing is, everybody's in pain. There's a lot of pain to go around. But we do know we're all in this together is not true equally for everyone. There are some people who are experiencing this crisis in much more profound and challenging ways than others. And so our call came out early on to acknowledge that there is an increased cost for people on fixed and low incomes who are living in poverty, and that $300 is an appropriate amount because we know the cost of living has gone up. As our work as a coalition to advocate in the public sphere for this. Okay, so we're going back now to Dana. So I'll hand it back over to you. Thanks.
Hey, thank you so much for all your patience, everybody. This learning all this technology and figuring it all out has been wild. I got disconnected about 5 or 6 times, and of course, as soon as I started chatting, that happened. Anin Buju, Namada Bimakwe, Indigenous Cause, Makwado Dem, Benisu, Indigenous Cause. So my name is Dana Connelly. My spirit name is Sitting Bear Woman and Thunderbird. I'm from the Bear Clan. I'm the Associate Executive Director at Gani Ganijik, like Molly said. Ganiganichik is a Indigenous organization, community-based, Indigenous-led, and we are located on McDermott, right in the heart of the inner city. And so one of the things that Ganiganichik does is we build on strengths, we support wellness in the community, we do everything we can to work from an anti-oppressive lens, like non-judgment, loving our people for who they are, working from a harm reduction lens. A big part of the work that we do is we never clientize folks because language can be a huge barrier. So we never talk about clients that we work with. We have participants, family members, relatives, community members that we work with. And so that's a big part of the work that we do at Ganiganichik. Few different areas that we work in. We have health and wellness. And so in that area, we have a few different programs that focus on counseling and support. We do a lot of work around mentorship and education and training. We were in a little bit of a unique position because we're not necessarily a drop-in center. We have specific programs that community members and relatives attend, and they join us for programming. And so it was a really interesting transition to move from all group programming, because one of the things that's really valuable to Indigenous folks in our organization is gathering in groups, feasting together, ceremonying together, really just building on the relationships that we have. Relationships are everything. And so it was a challenge to move towards online programming. So we have a lot of programs that right now that are delivering online. We moved to phone counseling. So we're on the telephone. We are doing the work that we need to still connect with folks, but we're just doing it in a unique way. So some of the challenges that came with that were the biggest challenges were the challenges that our community members were facing. And so it was really challenging to support people navigating to homeschooling their children. There's a game show called Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? For a reason. Like, I have a fifth grader and he's my son, and grade 5 math is no joke. Like it's tough. And so giving adequate supports, connecting our community with tutors and folks that who can help navigate some of that stuff has been challenging, but been really rewarding to help see some successes in those areas. Some of the other things that we're helping to navigate is child welfare. And so one of the things that I hadn't heard brought up yet was that folks who are involved in the child welfare system right now, teachers are reporting to child welfare if they're not doing their homework. And I know that in my house, homework isn't a huge priority right now. Wellness is a priority right now. And so just supporting people to navigate through those kinds of things right now has also been a really big challenge. Helping to navigate people with harm reduction supplies, because we know that substance use has gone through the roof during this time because we're all coping, right? We're all trying to find a way to get through this. And so just to help to ensure that our relatives are doing everything in a safe way has been our priority right now. So that's been really exciting. I just wanted to, and I should have done this to start with, but because I got disconnected, I was kind of all nervous and stressed out about how this all started. But I wanted to say thank you to Rena and Debbie for sharing your stories. And for me, storytelling is a big piece of how I learn and how I understand. And so hearing your story, Debbie, and the way that you took action was absolutely inspiring. So thank you so much. And Rena, the passion that you shared in the dissatisfaction that you have in the response to what's been going on is amazing. So I just appreciate everything. And Lori, everything you shared about things that are happening with the racism going on, absolutely echo that. One of the things that I wanted to share a little bit, because Ganiganichik was really challenged with a lot of this stuff that happened. And so when this all happened, we were trying to navigate how we're working from home. And then all of these things were released about the cuts that were going to be happening to for nonprofit organizations. And so it kind of switched our gears, and we had to start looking like, is our layoffs going to happen? How much of our funding comes from provincial budgets? And really looking at all of those things. And when we have to switch our services and the work that we're doing to focus on those things, it really takes away from everything that we give to the community, because that's always our focus. One of the things that also happened for us was that our services increased exponentially. And so I'll give you a quick example. We have a program called the Butterfly Club, which is a really awesome program for youth ages 9 to 13. It's a mentorship program where they learn all these incredible leadership skills and Indigenous ways of being and knowing. But what happened was we have 16 participants in that program. And so when we started to work with each participant in the program, we are now servicing the whole family. So the whole unit that's in the house. So we go from servicing 16 youth to now some of those families have 7 or 8 people in the home. So the way that we're servicing increases exponentially by thousands. And so that's been a challenge. And so navigating how to best support everybody in the home rather just than the individual has been a focus of the work that we're doing. One of the things that we did when we jumped into action was really to we developed a culturally safe coordinated response. And so basically just an assessment tool that talks about that entire medicine wheel. So we want to make sure that we're having a holistic approach. So we're looking at that emotional, physical, spiritual, mental, and ensuring the entire needs of the being that we're working with. And so looking at different ways to provide a coordinated response organizationally has been a way that we've responded, and something that's been really successful. And one of the things that I just have to kind of share right now is that I really feel like the staff that we have at Gani Gani Chick are so committed that they've always gone above and beyond, and so they've really done everything they can to kind of pivot through all of this, everything that's going on. We've actually had to change. So each of our programs, because we're not kind of a drop-in center, we have funding agreements with each program, and each of those agreements comes with its own deliverables that we have to meet. And so in each of the programs, we had to really look at our deliverables and see how we can still meet them in a unique way. So now we're having, like I said, online programming. If there was a Wednesday night programming, maybe we're dropping off supplies to make bannock-in soup so that the families can now do an activity together. Gardening. So we've been dropping off tons of gardening tools and things like that, so that folks are now able to, again, look at the whole medicine wheel and work on the physical, emotional, spiritual. So just trying to have unique ways in meeting those needs. One of the things that I wanted to share that I thought was really cool that's been happening, that we're kind of seeing on the ground, is tons of collaboration. And so with folks like SEDNet, Make Poverty History, Volunteer Manitoba, people are really coming together to network, to share best practices, to see how we can all work together to really meet the needs of the community. And not that wasn't always going on, but to see the innovative ways that people are collaborating is incredibly inspiring and beautiful, and it just makes you want to work that much harder and put that much more effort into ensuring we have a just community for all of our relatives. And so yeah, I don't think I have too much more to add beyond that, just that one of the things that Michael had said to me earlier when we were chatting, or sent a message about, was, what's one thing that you would share if you were able to talk to the premier, and if you were able to talk to the provincial government? And really, the only thing I need to share is, now is not the time for cuts. Now is the time for investment. Now is the time for investment in people, investment in communities. And so with that being said, thank you so much for offering to have us come in and share. I feel like I learned so much from everybody who was able to share, and we actually ended up getting it all done and I didn't get cut off. So that was a good thing. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Dana. I just loved your presentation and for going with the flow with our technical challenges today. And your message, now is not the time to cut, but the time to invest and provide proper supports for community groups and individuals. I think that's really strong. And in my job at the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, my colleague Lynn Fernandez and Jesse Hager have done an analysis that shows that it's like robbing Peter to pay Paul, if you like that analogy. The government is saying they need to cut in order to pay for the health response, but that's not true. The amounts that they would be cutting are really just peanuts and will affect our GDP, and job losses will result. And as you say, that I love the medicine wheel, and we need to support the whole family. And groups like Gani Gani Ganichik are doing that. West Central Women's are doing that. And we really need to support these groups for the well-being, because this is public health and wellness for our whole community. So thank you so much for your words and your time today, Dana. We're going to have one question for a couple of our panelists here, because we know this is something on people's minds. And as we mentioned, we have a campaign for welfare, for employment and income assistance, to be $300 higher per person for the duration of the pandemic as an emergency income response to COVID. And the province, we advocated for this for many weeks, and the province responded with a $200 benefit for all seniors, regardless of income, and $200 single income transfer for people with disabilities, unemployment, and income assistance. But lacking from any income support is for single adults on EIA. They're still living on about $800 a month during COVID. And also for people with children, single parents or parents with children, the province hasn't given them any income supports. So I'm going to first ask Lori and then Rena to comment. Why do you think the province has given money to some groups and not others?
Thanks for the question, Molly. I think there's probably lots of reasons why. And I think it was a fast and easy way to get some money out the door. And unfortunately, what happens when we do that and we don't do an income test, for example, on the $200 given to seniors, is that we end up spending a lot of money that then the premier is looking to cut elsewhere, which will hurt the folks who didn't receive the benefit in the first place. So that's the real risk. I think, what we've seen here, we saw, we've been working very closely, as Dana mentioned, the resilience of the nonprofit sector has never ceased to amaze me, and our ability to come together in times like these and to work in a collaborative and coordinated fashion has been really quite remarkable, if there's a silver lining to find in all of this. And so we've worked quite closely alongside Winnipeg Harvest and many of the other food programs happening across the city. And when people, were bulk buying and panic buying, that impacted people's ability to get access to food. Donations to Winnipeg Harvest went down nearly 80% in terms of both physical food donated and money donated. That resulted in Harvest needing to reduce access to hampers for folks who really depended on those hampers. And we saw those have significant impacts on the families that we support. In addition to that, that a lot of our families count on us for one meal a day at a minimum. And we would see often during school time parents, mums who would come in at lunchtime with their children. They would pick their kids up from school, come to the center for lunch, and then walk them back over to school afterwards. And losing the ability to do that has really stretched families with small children, particularly, to make ends meet and to put healthy, nutritious food on the table, to have enough at the end of the month to get everything that they need to literally basically survive. And so these are the families that do need to be prioritized right now. And I know many folks over 65 who were shocked and frustrated by receiving a $200 check when they really felt that that money should be going elsewhere. And I think it's great to see many of them turning that money over to programs and agencies that are supporting low-income community members. But the risk with that also is that it does feed the narrative that the responsibility is on individuals to be generous to the nonprofit sector, rather than really understanding that the responsibility rests with the provincial government to invest properly into the services that people depend on.
Thank you so much, Lori English from the West Central Women's Resource Centre. I agree, it is the jurisdiction of the provincial government to provide basic needs through the social welfare program, and that is far below the poverty line, as we know. I'll now hand the question over to Rena Hermkins. Rena, can you share your perspective of why the province picked certain groups to give an income transfer to and not others?
Well, this is just my opinion. The government doesn't want to give single people on welfare that are not on disability any extra money than they are, because they want to get them off welfare. Their way of getting them off welfare is giving them the less and making it impossible to survive, forcing them to try and get a job. That's the way I feel. But blow up in their face, because the government offered the CERB that 2,000 a month. I know a lot of single people on welfare have applied for it, and they're living off of it. They're getting every I've talked to uh um a friend of a friend who got three of those checks, so that's $6,000. He said, um, I put my name out there. I was entitled to it, and I took it. And I said to him, "Well, I thought you're on welfare." And he goes, "Yeah, I know, but they don't give me enough, so I'm taking this." So he's causing himself trouble in the future. But I mean, it kind of like welfare forced him to do that, because they didn't give him any COVID help. So I don't know if this makes sense or anything, but I know a lot of single people on welfare and people on welfare are getting that $2,000 um, CERB benefit, which they're not entitled to because they're not in the work field, and their Revenue Canada is just sending out money like crazy, and it's costing the the people that really need it pain, because the money should go toward the people that need it, not these people double dipping and just going for it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much, Rena. And of course, it's hard to look for a job if you're just struggling day to day to just survive. And then right now, we know so many are out of work that there aren't jobs, or jobs that even pay a living wage for people to be able to get to. Plus, the whole challenge with the CERB at $2,000 a month is, um, adequate benefit, many would say, but for people on EIA who are living on $800 a month who've now gotten onto CERB, we actually have a campaign about that at Make Poverty History as well, asking the province not to close their EIA file, because we're worried it'll be hard for them to get back on EIA when CERB ends. And also that EIA isn't high enough, so that's why people are applying to the CERB. And the government of Canada actually asked the provinces to not claw back CERB from people on EIA, but that is what Manitoba is doing. So these levels of government need to talk to each other. They need to be much more coordinated and complementary, rather than the province offloading responsibility onto the federal government of the provincial areas of jurisdiction. So that's also at our website, which is knowpoverty.ca, KNOW poverty.ca, so you can read up on that. And I'm just going to check in with our people here, but I think that winds up our point, I guess, unless Dana or Josh have any other to make on that. Dana or Josh, did you want to add anything that I might not have added?
Yeah, in terms of the groups that are getting the money, I think there's just been this long-standing idea that this division between the deserving poor and the undeserving poor. And I think that's one of the things that we really need to break down in our society. Everybody in our society has a right to a basic standard of living, to have their basic needs met. And right now, EIA and other income support programs are totally inadequate. But we also have to recognize that they should be rights. They're rights that we have in our international obligations, and as well as our obligations nationally to First Nations people as well, who are disproportionately affected. And so those are rights that people have, and to draw these distinctions takes us back in time, to the poor law eras of the 19th century and earlier. In fact, we should be moving beyond that, and that's why we've been so strongly advocating for this livable basic need benefit, to break down that distinction between deserving and undeserving poor. So that's the only thing I would add to that.
Thank you so much, John. And we work with Basic Income Manitoba on the basic needs standard, so they have been involved as well. Dana, any last comments or thoughts on that question?
No, I don't really have anything too much to add. I really liked what Josh said, and I took some notes of that. I think there's so much more discussion that we can keep carrying on and having about the deserving poor and the undeserving poor, and how often that's not brought to light. So I just took a note. So thanks, Josh, for sharing that. And I'm excited to carry on conversations. So thanks for asking.
Great. Well, thank you so much to all of our panelists for your time and sharing your knowledge and expertise. And thank you so much to our Elda Gramis Shingoose for sharing her knowledge and our blessing today. I felt the energy there from her through the ether here. And I think if you're like me, I'm thirsty for that these days, because we need to feel connected to each other and something greater beyond ourselves as well. So thank you for watching and for being patient with our technological learning curve. And yeah, we will be posting a phone call and email your MLA and the Premier and Minister of Families, Heather Stephenson, sign our petition and sign up for our mailing list. And we'll see you this Friday at 6 p.m. at the legislature for the Black Lives Matter Winnipeg rally. And we'll see you hopefully in the community soon enough. Thanks, everybody.